I just want to say thank you, Kelvin, for taking time today and coming and sharing this topic with us. Before we dive in, I want to introduce Kelvin Ward. So Kelvin here has 15 plus years of experience as a former art director and associate creative director, creating innovative solutions that have had significant impact on the user's experience as it told a story. He has always been a visual storyteller driven by the need to understand and influence his audience. Kelvin is now a senior UX designer at Rowe Price, where he co-leads the experience design strategy for multifaceted digital transformation challenges and ongoing digital product development, such as client-facing applications and insights that offer experiences for financial advisors and intermediaries. Kelvin believes technology can revolutionize how people go about their day-to-day lives. He believes his goal as a designer is to develop a deep understanding and empathy for the people being served so he can partner with them and design a better human experience. In addition, I've had the opportunity to work with Kelvin, and he is an amazing designer. As you can see from the first slide, the visuals speak for themselves, and I'll let Kelvin take over. Thank you, Kelvin.
All right. Thank you, Anita. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes. All right, great. So again, it's my pleasure to be able to host this webinar on something that is very dear to my heart and very passionate to me, and that's Stylescapes. So, and that's what are Stylescapes. Um, Unfortunately, with my role at Rowe Price, working now in product design, which I've been doing for about a year and a half, I don't have the opportunity to do Stylescapes anymore unless I'm doing some consulting work or something like that. So I do miss it. So when Anita reached out to me, asked if I wouldn't mind doing a webinar on Stylescapes, I just jumped all in and it was all for it. Little thing about me, I've been at some small to medium-sized companies doing my 20 plus years. Um, as you see here, one of the largest companies, AOL, for those who's not too young to remember who AOL was. But just to give you a little background, in those agencies, I've worked as a art director, creative director, and what I'm doing now at Rowe Price is something a little bit different for me as a product designer. So I'm actually really loving it, working on products and not really doing the heavy design lift as I've been accustomed to doing. So let's get into it. So the agenda I put together for Stylescapes are, um, I feel like I can't get into Stylescapes for those who may not have ever heard of Stylescapes. Before I go any further, let me get a show of hands or yes, no. Who's familiar with Stylescapes? Anyone? Anita? Okay.
That's
So
my
I'm pretty sure.
neutral. That's my neutral thumb.
Okay. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you have heard of mood boards, right? Yes. So mood boards was, I guess, some years ago, doing mood boards, and then we moved into style tiles and then Stylescapes. So from there, you can't do Stylescapes without doing a discovery process. Stylescapes allow you to tell a good story. It gets you design approval faster. And then the difference Stylescapes can make is going to be a show and tell of some of the Stylescapes work that I've done and a former colleague of mine that done to show you the breadth of style things. Sounds good? So mood board, style tiles, and style tiles versus Stylescapes. So mood boards, as I said, they all are a type of visual presentation. So mood boards are a visual presentation or collage consisting of images, fonts, typography, objects, textures, to create a composition or idea for a design direction. The issue with mood boards is it's just randomly placing images on the artboard. It's not really curated. It's not really thought through, in my opinion, and it's just a quick way to get get visual images to create a style. So this is not a mood board that I've done, but I just went on the web and just pulled an example of a mood board. So to give it some context, to give you guys an idea that may not be familiar with mood boards, as you can to show you what a mood board look like. So a mood board here, you can see it's just, you have adjectives here that is simulating the voice for the project, friendly, informational, civic. You see a color palette to the right of that. Below it is also indicating um, typography, heading styles, subheadings, and body text. And then to the right, this giving you some images treatments, uh, branding, and components, which also consist of icons to give the client an idea of a design direction. And I'll say back in the day, this was pretty pretty well good for what we were doing. But in this mood board, it also wasn't efficient. So when we went to prototyping, or then we were designing and doing web design in Photoshop, there was a lot of back and forth and a lot of revisions to actually come up with and come up with the design idea that the you and the client was agreeing upon. So style tiles. So for mood boards, we move to style tiles. So style tiles are another design delivery consistent of fonts, colors, interface elements that communicate the essence of a visual brand for the web. Uh, they have formed a common visual language between the designers and the stakeholders. Uh, but for when a mood board is too vague and too comp, it's too literal. So we started out with in the design agency that I was working with, mood boards. Then we moved from mood boards to style tiles. And then from style tiles, we moved to Stylescapes. Let me switch and give you an example of a Stylescape right quick. So quickly, so everyone can see that. So here's a style tile. Um, a style tile, we would design it in Photoshop. As we moved from Photoshop, we also did it in Sketch. And then from Sketch, we upgraded to Figma. So when we come up with the style tile design, what we would do is we would cut it apart, and then we'll put it in Vision. And this is in Vision here. And again, so what we want to do, give the client a design direction of what we're thinking from the discovery that we had, to show them that this is design direction that we would do. And what we'll usually do is two versions, uh, version 1 and a version 2. This is just showing the hero image area, um, giving you different different ideas of type of imagery that can be placed there. Then we went on down. This is more in a vertical format. We talked about the colors and the proposed color palette for the project. We also shared the proposed typography, button styling, then some other UI elements, as you see here. So one of the reasons that we kind of moved away from style tiles. What you see here is because when we were presenting this to the client, we found that the client couldn't stop looking past the vertical alignment of the style tiles. They saw this as a home page or a page design, although we told them that these are just design directions, these are just components that we're proposing for the design direction. They still couldn't get out of the visual that because it was in a vertical alignment and a vertical format, that this was a design, a full complete design page. So there came while we moved from style tiles and we found there was a better way, and that's doing Stylescapes. So Stylescape, so the difference between mood boards and then the middle ground of a style tile, or what I just shared, what they are, and moving on to Stylescapes are. Stylescapes are carefully collected combination of images. They're images that are curated. You got your images, a lot of things that are in both the mood boards and style tiles, typography, colors. Um, but with a Stylescape, what it is it's like a mood board on steroids. Is I used to call it. It communicates a certain look and feel of the brand, the website, interior space, or any other design project. And Stylescapes, I felt like, was the thing that helped bridge the gap between my ideas as a designer and the client. So most of you guys are designers or in the digital field. You can't start doing any type of design process without the discovery process. So in order to achieve the right stylescape design direction, um, there has to be a discovery process as well. You have to focus on what's important for the client, and that's asking questions. Through asking questions, you start to figure out what your clients need. Uh, each time you ask them a question. And a lot of you would know, Anita, that you know we as designers or we as digital professionals, we speak a different language than our client. Um, what they may mean as something minimalist is totally different in how we interpret it. And then you don't know more and then you should always know that you don't know more than your client. It's their brand, it's their project, it's their company, and it's your job as a designer or digital professional to get those intangibles from that client so you can understand and do a better job of uh, creating that final product. So Stylescapes tell you and your client what they want to know. Uh, when I share the examples at the end, you will see that there's a big difference in comparison to what I shared with you with the mood board and then the style tile. Um, the Stylescapes actually promotes authenticity. Uh, it has that empathy, that emotional hook for the clients. Um, it fosters understanding and increased dialogue uh, in a stylescape. And one of the reasons that is it's more horizontal. It's not that vertical um, alignment. It also serves as a design direction to establish the overall look and feel for what you're designing. It opens the door to a conclusion of ideas, even with the client when you're presenting these stylescapes. And like I said before, I found that it definitely bridged the gap between you and the client, and it's more efficient in saving you uh, in the design process of a lot of revisions. One of the main things of Stylescapes are, I feel that it gets design approval faster. A client is able to look at, let's say, if there's two versions of the Stylescapes, they're able to look at a version and say, that's the design direction I want to go with. It doesn't give any unknowns between you and your client. Um, I feel like the design really catches the tone of the company, and it really tells the story of what they hired you for. It takes the guesswork out of takes the guesswork out from designers trying to read clients' minds. And I know a lot of you, we all been in meetings and we're designing things and we thought we got it right, and there's just crickets in the presentation when you presented the designs. So, like again, it removes the endless cycle of revision, headaches, and loss of time. So the difference maker, Stylescapes can make. So here I'm gonna go into one next thing. Showing 1 second. Wrong thing. Okay.
You're giving it all away, man.
I know, man. Give me 1 second. So here I intentionally left some of my work in progress stuff here just to talk about it and give you an idea. So here at Rowe Price, I actually introduced Stylescapes to the team. We're all part of a Tiger team. So I actually introduced this to the team. They had never heard of Stylescapes as well. So we started by coming up with some adjectives that actually spoke to the tone that we wanted to design for. So in this first one here, this is one that I did. I wanted to create a Stylescape photo collage that kind of represented the data visualizations of T. Rowe Price. And I'm gonna just zoom in here. And as you can see, uh, from start to finish, left to right, as you scroll down the page, you can hopefully see that it tells a story. And hopefully you can see the difference from the other two examples of the mood boards and the style tiles that I shared before. So started off with a little branding right here to get the hook, and then we go into, got the font family, proposed font family, colors, iconography, and then just really trying to catch that emotional hook, using the colors, using the branding um, of T. Rowe Price um, to actually, as we're presenting this to the client, it tells the story. And that client could be an external client or it could be an internal client with the marketing department. Here's I'm showing you some card components. Then really capturing with emotive imagery, typography, playing with different textures as you see here, showing some data visualization. Have a nice imagery there. So here, I hope you're from this first Stylescape. Hope you kind of see the breadth of what a Stylescape can do. So here below, I left this on here to show you. This is the branding colors that T. Rowe Price has. There's to the right, we got functional colors. We have other charting colors. Uh, Other primary and secondary colors. So as you would know, I wouldn't use every color in this palette. So what I did was use a online color system that I like to use called Color. So what I did was punch in some of these colors to actually get a complementary color palette that I felt that match what's in the brand. And these are just every time I come against a color, I'll post it in here, and then I'll take and curate and select what color I felt that gave me the best complementary color to the main primary colors that I wanted to use. As you see here, these two blues. Any questions there? Good. So,
Sorry.
go ahead.
One question for the Stylescapes, do you actually use the same assets and stuff that that you see here in the final product, or is it more of like you mentioned a mood board? So when I imagine this mood board on steroids, I would think that they wouldn't be used. So I just want some more clarification on that.
Say that again about the mood board.
Oh, so I was just wondering if you actually end up using like the assets that you have here, like, for example, the woman with the, oval in the background,
Mhm.
the meter trusted experts, if this is more of like components that are, examples, or if those are actually things that the client will eventually have.
That's a great question. A lot of times, uh, these images are to sell the client on the design direction. Um, so, like the images you see here, those are all stock images. Um, Sometimes when we get a project, clients may have their own images or own color palette already established. So if they do have their own images, we would try to use all of their images. A lot of the clients that we would design for when I was with the agency association, so you can probably imagine their imagery, in my opinion, weren't the best images. So um, we didn't want their lack of great images to dictate our design direction. So sometimes we will put images like this in and let the client know these are for position only, just to give them an idea of the type of imagery that we are proposing for that style. That answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
So in these colors, you can see that I did some research in the colors. Uh, I knew blue was my primary color, so I did a little research and looking up what these colors meant: trust, confidence, intelligence, loyalty, wisdom. That all speaks what Rowe Price is about. So I just put this to the side to keep in mind to help drive as I was designing. These stylescapes, especially for this, I wanted to show trust. I wanted to somehow uh, tell the story of loyalty. So that's one example. This was done by
I have a question
a
for you, Kelvin.
colleague of mine. I'm sorry.
I have a question for you if you have a sec.
Yep. Go
That,
ahead.
that first one, can you give us an idea of sort of the types or the roles, flavors of folks that were in the room that what you presented to the first time? Was it sort of like more project-based teams, or was it senior stakeholders or VPs, or like what did that look like from a feedback perspective?
Yeah, but this particular project was just again, this was a tiger team that we put together.
Mhm.
I was telling them on the styling or solution for Stylescape. So we're pretty much just project based
Okay.
team. Now, as I scroll down and get into some of the other Stylescapes, those were from agency work, and those were definitely stakeholders and client based
Okay.
stakeholders that were in the room. So this is another flavor or another version of the Rowe Price, what we could do. And then a good thing that I found out when you when I was working with the agency, uh, myself as creative director, and then my former colleague, he was VP of design. We both had a competitive uh, nature going on with he would do a version, I'll do a version, and it all always pushed us to try and outdo the other when we designed these, but also, adhere to what we learned from the discovery process as well. So here's another one, Astro. Now, all the other Stylescapes that I'm getting to, these were top stakeholders, clients that we presented to.
Clients of Rowe Price?
No, these were
Other
clients of
agencies.
the agency, right?
Yeah, okay, got it.
So you'll see the little difference in here. So we pretty much created a template that you would see kind of varies from project to project. But one thing that didn't vary is this first component here. We wanted to give the project overview, which was details. We wanted to tell the, give the client a little overview about what is a stylescape. And we wanted to kind of give them input on how to navigate through this. Once we presented, we also delivered these stylescapes, so we put them online where they can go and view it. They can keep the tires themselves. So this is Astra. I believe it was open and flexible to select a font proposal for them. They didn't have a font that they were married to. Their primary colors are from their logo, so that was a definite requirement, but there was flexibility on what the supplementary colors could be, as you can see here. Iconography, we will use material design icons. Here you can see the button styles. Here's a large imagery that emotes the emotional hook. Then just sharing as you scroll from left to right, and having this style tile tell the story of what the company is about and their mission. So that was version 1 for that, for Astro, that client. Then version 2, you can see there's a different layout from what I did for in version 1 from what my colleague did, and that's fine. You can see how 2 different designers think differently to come up with 2 different concepts, but both Stylescapes concepts is adhering to the brand and the requirement, the goal of the project. Here you can see icons are a little bit further in the middle, as where I had it up front. How the imagery played on typography.
A little bit of texture there. That looks good.
Yep.
Introduce that.
Background textures you see here. So you can see, hopefully you're starting to get to see how Stylescapes are a lot different than the 2 other solutions that I showed you, which are Moodboards and Style Tiles. Here, we felt that the client can really look at this and really see themselves, and they were able to easily pick a direction. As before, they may pick a direction from a mood board, and then we start prototyping or designing the page, and we present that page and wasted time, and they're like, oh no, this is not what we envisioned. This is not what we thought we was getting. But from a Stylescape, I feel like it really tells the story without, locking yourself into a design layout that a client can sign off on easily.
Hey, Kelvin, were these for websites or printed materials, directories, or promo pieces?
These are all digital for websites.
Web. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I'll share you how Stylescape can come together in a full page homepage web design at the end of this. So Nikes, here's another one. Here you see the same Same information here. We're able to play with colors, pull the colors from the color palette that we're proposing. Typography, playing with textures, as you see here. So one of the things is what they do is they represent health agencies of 50 states in the U.S. So that's why you see this texture of the state outline here. So we wanted to kind of put a subtle hint of what they're about in this design.
Did you do this one?
I didn't do this. I did the, no, I didn't do this.
I like whoever pulled the arch from the logo.
Yeah.
And that one. That's cool.
You did a great job. Typography. And some of these you'll see, you recognize this lady a lot, and that's okay to use it for different clients. Again, when we're presented in, we give them, the disclosure that, we're used stock photography. So this lady here, she just works. That's why you see her in a lot of the work that I did and my colleague did as well.
There was one year where there was like this doctor that was sort of at the forefront that I saw everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, we try not to do that, but
it happens sometimes.
somehow she's ended up on a lot of these. And just showing you some card style designs. Again, pulling in that texture. This was version 2. Again, you can see play on the colors here using circles, here using block form.
Bit more of a masculine tone.
Really playing on some primary, on some highlight colors with this red here. And a lot of things that I found with these stylescapes is just being able to find that right imagery. In designing a lot of stuff, I find myself I can get lost in just going through stock photography or going through the class photography because I feel like you have to feel and get that right image that you think can speak to the design. We're playing with typography over an image. And that state texture. So one of the things I would say about Stylescapes that is very passionate to me as a designer, it allows designers to really play, to really have fun, to really, I would say push the limits of design that you don't get to do in a lot of projects. And as you can see here, we really, are able to really let our design speak for itself. So here's another one, DIA. Here you see how it pulls some of the triangle textures from the logo, played around with that. Played around with typography in the background. Some statistic styling. Little data vision. This particular company has some real, I would say, great and vibrant colors. And these colors are fun to play with. So those are some Stylescape examples. If you look up Stylescapes on the web, you'll see that there are some templates. And what I felt like we did at the agency was we took that, what we saw that I felt like the templates that you see or some of the designs you see on Stylescapes, they're not as, they don't tell a narrative as the way that we were able to do in our Stylescapes. And I'm not trying to toot our own horn, but you know, you get a chance and remember what I've shared here. Just look up Stylescapes and look at some of the examples that that they show. A lot of them are pretty just real blocky as it goes down the narrative of telling the story. Here we tried to have a blend where it was a consistent story where it doesn't stop. So the next thing I'm going to show is so I'm going to take that last Stylescape that you saw. And now I'm going to show you how a Stylescape and a wireframe. So our UX designer will be in their discovery, working with the client, stakeholders, and the information architect, the wireframe. And we kind of do this simultaneously. In some projects, maybe the Stylescape will start first, and vice versa. The wireframe will start first. But we all work together to push up each other in ideas and what we may be, what some findings we have found maybe in the discovery process or in the wireframing process. So take a good look at you've seen the Stylescape. Take a good look at the wireframe here, and then you can see how the two marry to create the final product. You'll see some of the similarities from both as I share here. So this is we did 2 version home pages. Playing, they're very similar. This color, this green box may be burgundy as you would see to the side. I can just go and share that. You can see how the elements that you've seen in the Stylescape kind of marry with what you've seen in the wireframing, how it all comes together to create that one final product, that home page design. Any questions?
One question, how long do Stylescapes usually take?
Oh, that's a good question. From doing them for a while, we came up with a solution that we allow 10 hours per Stylescape.
Okay.
So when you say 10 hours, one direction 10 hours, and then the second word, like two.
Yes, each direction is 10 hours. So we're doing, 2 Stylescapes is in the scope, and each Stylescape is 10 hours per.
So which one did they pick out of these 2?
It was this one. I went back and looked, but they went with one of their images right here in the hero area. So everything you see here is the burgundy. They went with this type of style, this type of banner.
Also, quick question, Kelvin. Knowing that most of these are for associations, if you have to design for, say, different industries, Are there any things that you have to keep in mind when you're doing the stylescapes?
No, not necessarily, and that's why I wanted to share some of the Rowe Price stuff, which is, you know, uh, global product, mutual funds. So, you know, the most important thing is doing that creative discovery with the client. Asking as many questions as you can, making sure you understand their brand, understand what their goals and requirements are.
So there's always a conscious decision to try to show things like, infographics and cards, and because they kind of make up the web page, also like some stats.
Yep. Yeah, you try and capture as much as possible. You can't capture everything, but you try and capture you know the the main focus that you may have heard from that creative kickoff, creative discovery, that is going to create the narrative and tell the story for that particular style scheme. And sometimes you may, for example, I don't know if we use this. I know we didn't. This wasn't used on the homepage. It might have been used on the interior page. This paragraph here. Uh, Sometimes you may include something in there that's, again, this is a beautiful looking paragraph, and sometimes it may not get used because, for example, if the stylescape may have direction may have been designed before the wireframing is wrapped up, then there's going to be some pivoting on some components.
Did they utilize those faded triangles that you got from the logo in the background? In the
I
final?
believe,
Yeah.
yeah, I believe they did.
Okay, cool. I like that.
Me too. The
Thank you.
textures are nice. Even the strokes, I think they had it on the hero image.
Mhm.
Yeah, these always, for me, always turn out to be like industrial design proof of concepts, sort of. Here's the idea of the car, and then the production car is different. Not much different, but it's different in ways that we probably see and not as many other people see.
That's
Oh
true.
yeah. Hey, Sean.
Hey man, how are you?
See you down there. All right, man.
You didn't know it was me till now?
Nah, I just saw you down there. Good to see you.
It's like, who's that guy talking all the time, man? Good to see you. All of you.
He was the one who's asking all the questions, Kelvin.
Oh wow. See, my video thumbnails is at the bottom, so I was concentrating on my delivery
Yeah, I do the same thing. Otherwise, it distracts me.
here.
These are really nice designs, Kelvin.
Yeah, they are all sharp, really.
Very nice.
Thank you, and thanks for asking me to. It was an honor to do this. Again, I missed it. Rowe Price. I don't get to do this much or ever now, but only in some consulting work if I was sure to do it. But yeah, I
So
think, Sean, as you know, this is a one of the ways that we as designers are able to really flap our wings and really get into the mix of design.
right.
Yeah, I hadn't heard actually of the term stylescapes before, but
Mhm.
we've done these a number of times in different like orientations essentially. But yeah, I've found them to be way more effective to sort of pick like flavors and pieces of actual real things that will ultimately be used in the end product, but not necessarily cutting yourself off at the knees prior to going through all of the IA and the layout and looking at the content and all. Because I've run into the same trouble where you get crickets the first time, and you show ambiguous creative is what the client thinks it is, and they just can't connect with it. So you sort of have to have some kind of a storyline that speaks for itself, or that if it doesn't, you can get, walk them through and they can get it. Otherwise, it's a terrible way to kick off creative. So,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, these are all really, really sharp. And did they, I know a lot of times organizations that come to us or agencies don't, but do you typically always start off with Google Material, or was that their choice or what they were already using?
As far as icons?
Yeah, well, I assume the intention would be to use Google Material Design for the build.
Yeah. So it'll be, that can be, created on the back end,
Yeah.
front end for, CSS. There's no custom iconography.
Yeah,
So
I
we
asked because
found that Google Material.
I just did 2 projects on Google Material and at the Home Depot, and then a big one before that, and it was on Ant Design, a completely different design system, all within the same EUX group. But I mean, they have that kind of autonomy, but at the same time, it's like, why reinvent the wheel more than once? But I also know we can, be given direction from the client that, hey, we already have this design system, that design system. So I was just curious.
So, one question I had, Kelvin, have you ever presented the Stylescapes in a vertical scroll, like as opposed to horizontal? I know you had the experience of doing that with the style tiles.
Right.
Have you tried, like what?
Yeah, that's one of the things of Stylescapes. If you look at Stylescapes online, they're all horizontal, and that's one of the things that Stylescapes has is horizontal format. When we were doing style tiles, we put it in a vision, and like again, a lot of clients couldn't get past the vertical presentation that they, would think that is the actual layout of a homepage that we're designing. Although we took components and we put color up front, color in the middle, try to break it up, they still somehow will get caught up on, the layout of it. So I feel like, this Stylescape solution is a great solution. My opinion, they are horizontal. I feel like it's like a book. You read a book left to right, and as you go down the page from left to right, it's telling a story. It's pulling. I feel like it's pulling the client in deeper and deeper, and I know it gets me excited. The more you go, the more power. And that's one of the things I like about it.
So they almost do like a series of comps, treating different segments one after the other kind of a thing, which kind of makes it easier to, once they get to this stage, to make those actual comps, since you've already got a lot of that done.
Have you thought about, or have you had any requests to, even at this stage, make the presentation responsive?
No.
So that's something I kind of got into. If you ever want to just kick it around, it kind of can take that next gotcha out of the situation, with maybe some of the harder clients who are like, well, I really like this, but this is in a vertical. This is in a horizontal. What can I see in vertical if they've never seen it in vertical? That kind of stuff. So it's like, in the way I started playing around with it, and I think other folks do this too, but there's so many really good designer friendly and layperson friendly web apps out there now, like EditorX and Webflow and some others, and which really allow you to do a lot of stuff in it. And at the price that the fairly cheap, per month to do that, where you can put your components in there, and if you want to kind of reorder them as you go down, scale down sizes, and not affect the original, there's a bunch of different ways to do that, and inherit and versus unique as you are in different size formats. But because that's another trouble I've run into from time to time over many years. It just comes up from time to time where somebody's like, basically saying, well, I'd like to see this, you know, can I see this in more of a web, you know, a real world kind of web format, which is, you know, we all want to go, well, no, we're not at that stage yet. But if you have an easy platform that, you know, as we know, like a lot of these are hero images, or and maybe, you know, the buttons kick down to the next line or something like that. Like if you can keep them fairly simple without getting crazy with interactions and stuff like that, that can maybe take that risk out of it for those clients that you run into. There's going to be concern. But
interesting. Yeah, I know we never ran into that.
it's good.
And if we were asked that, I know we were saying, hey, we're not at that stage yet. You know, once we get to the, you know, the IA, the wireframe, you know, it would pretty much.
So I got one
solidify
question
it.
for you that might benefit the group. It's a little self-serving, but and I think you know where I stand on this because we recently changed message or passed messages. What is, and you can keep it generic, but what's your impression or opinion on differences between agency world and in-house world? Pros, cons, likes, dislikes.
I'm going to say it's less stressful these days for me.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, I like the product. I like the product in-house part of it. Working on a product. But I also, in the same sense, I do miss what you're seeing here, able to really flourish with pushing designs
Yeah.
in the agency board. So, you know, you kind of give and take. But one thing, and Anita, you can speak to it too, probably. So I have noticed that it is less stress. I'm not burning the midnight hour or trying to come up with 2 design versions or
Yeah.
spent several meetings and then got a design and then have a design block and then that particular project has run over into the wee hours of the night or even over the weekend. That's one of the things that I can say that, you know, I don't miss.
And also, in-house teams do have design systems in place, right? So you don't really get to experiment with that.
Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I mean, I think from my recent experience over the last 18, 24 months, contracting for a couple of big groups, it also offers the ability to go deep and wide, where with client and agency work, it's you definitely have a lot more ability to have variety and especially build your portfolio. But you don't really get to go wide with it, because once you're kind of through, they typically don't want to pay you to stay on with them forever. It's rare, some clients do, but so there's sort of a trade-off there at the same time, like especially to watch some folks that are earlier in their careers, and they can like watching them actually have time to socialize and have time to you know, go have webinars and present their stuff and all that. I'm like, you know, the almighty hour is not pushing them as much. So I think it can be a healthy environment as well. And some groups can be big enough where you can stretch your legs a bit in some areas, just typically isn't on many enterprise applications. So
True. So we are about time, 7:30. Does anyone have any more questions, or we are good to wrap? And
thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you.
thank you guys.
Thanks. This was awesome.
Question.